Um, so I'll call the meeting to order at 1:31. And the topic is I had a conversation with Dave Ferris about the possibility of using affordable housing trust funds to reduce or to increase the rent discount. I guess I'll put it that way, from 20% to some larger number, perhaps 40%. And he was certainly willing to discuss that. I think it would potentially also, make us sort of the trust uh, co-developers or co-partners in his 40B. And I have contacted town council, and town council has told me that yes, this is a legitimate use of the funds, and I'm still waiting for a little more detail in terms of the exact process that we would have to go through. Sorry, meant to. And the exact process we would have to go through. I don't know yet whether we would have to do an RFP, whether this is subject to the 30B posted or not. Liz thought it wasn't, but she wanted to do more work. I've also reached out to Mass Housing just to see if they have other examples of that or a template agreement. And so I guess at this point, the question I have is the committee interested in following up with this, or is this just, an interesting idea, but we're not interested?
I'm interested in the concept, Al, but I'm still struggling with exactly how it would work. For example, you talk about lowering rents. That sounds to me, though, like a time-limited thing in the sense that, if we were, for example, going to give somebody a rent voucher or something for $1,000 a month, just to pick a number, we're basically throwing money through that hole, and we will run out of money at some point versus a project that we put money into a development project and create a housing unit that somebody can buy and live in for a long period of time and continues on to the next person who can afford to live in it versus a monthly rent payment kind of thing. So how do you think that's going to work?
What I envisioned was a one-time payment to the developer, and that one-time payment would then be sufficient to secure that unit permanently as an affordable unit at 60%, say, of market, just as the units today, since he's applied for 40B, would be permanently at 80%. So essentially
Okay.
taking the 80% units and moving them to 60%.
60%.
So it would be
Now,
a permanent thing.
okay. Now, but is that a rental unit or an owned unit?
Those would be
These are all rentals that we're
All
talking
these are
about.
all
rentals,
rental
okay.
units.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting concept, but I guess if I'm a developer, I get X dollars today, and to forego basically Y dollars worth of monthly rent for the next 50 years or whatever, which
Yes.
pretty steep hill to climb, I would think. So if a developer's willing to
I've
do
done the
it,
present value calculation, at least
yeah.
nominally, and I don't want to talk about those numbers in this forum because I think
Yep.
that's a matter that we should talk about
Yep. I
in executive session, because I think it's but you can do the present value calculation as easily as I can, Sam,
Yes, I
and
can.
and
But
I'm sure you will. And we
but
might even
again,
agree on the discount rate.
yeah, regardless regardless of the discount rate, I think it's an interesting concept. And if a developer is willing to do that kind of deal, X dollars now for basically permanent rent reduction, I think that's pretty interesting.
Now, one of the questions I have is whether there's a process you have to go through to qualify for this, or whether it's, anybody walks in off the street. There's a lot of details.
Yeah, but I don't think, again, the thing that's troubled me historically is that my first priority would be creating housing opportunity for local residents like town employees, for example, or seniors trying to downsize, et cetera. And many of those programs basically, by state law, go on the open market. So, somebody from, Hawaii comes in and wins the lottery or whatever, they get the unit, and it doesn't really help Southborough residents.
Yeah,
they-
I think if we use trust fund money, I think we are subject to those rules. And again, you know, I'm reaching out to the experts because,
Good. Okay.
yeah.
And I don't know, but it's a good answer to have, certainly, and understand.
Yeah. I don't know either, but I'm trying to find out.
So I agree. I'm interested in, this is intriguing. I'm interested, devil's in the details as far as how it works. So waiting for you to truly, explain how it could work. And being able to do what Sam just said, being able to specify specifically, just like David Foote wants to do. He wants us to, specify groups of people that could buy or live in that house. So if we
Yep.
could do that, that would be great. And if there's a different, right now, if you want to go into a 40B and you want one of the 40B units, you have to apply, you have to show a whole lot of information that has to be checked, and you've got to resupply that every year. That's how it works, to show that you still qualify. So I just want to understand how this works. And I can't believe that no one's done this before. So there's got to be examples of how
Yeah.
people have done it.
Or maybe a fatal flaw that we don't know now, but
Yeah.
knowing that is
Stranger
important.
things have happened.
Yep. So Al, I guess what I'm thinking is he quotes term sheet for what the deal looks like. So in other words, the legal context, what happens in terms of ownership or occupancy going forward, the numbers, what's a proposed investment from the trust fund, and what's that going to do in terms of rent reduction. And there may be different levels of that. So for X dollars you get to 60%, and for Y dollars you get to 40% of AGI or whatever. I'd be
I think
interested.
I've got to do
sensitivity.
I've got to do a little more homework there to make sure that I understand sort of the process. But for example, I don't know whether we have to do this as an RFP and put it out and then see what people get back to us or not. But
if we did an RFP, for example, the only people who are likely to respond are people who actually have a current project in the pipeline and fairly near-term pending. So there's not many of those. Maybe somebody new comes in. That would be great if we got new levels of interest. But at least you got to go through the steps, which we need to understand. So,
well, if you limit the applicant pool to 40Bs, we've got 3 that are in process right now, and one of those is not rental. 2 are rental, 1's not. So it may be Ferris's 2 that would compete in that RFP, maybe.
Yeah, I think Andrew's dying to speak.
I also think I agree with what's been said. It's an interesting idea, makes sense to understand more about the details. I have a question and then just a comment suggestion. So first, Al, when you said you would be interested in us having become like a co-developer or something, what did you mean by that?
Well, this might have some value to Ferris beyond the money in terms of, having this be co-developed with the Southborough Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Oh, you mean like a branding?
It's a PR sort of thing.
Okay, yeah, because I guess I'm not interested.
I sure don't want the liability.
Liabilities associated.
Yeah,
and that was the nature of my question. And then, another thing that would be interesting is if you can, in addition with this, do something where there's also a Southborough resident preference. I think I've seen that before, but that's also another thing worth confirming. It's just, that's not saying that these units are not open to people from other communities, but that if there's someone who is, for example, lived in town for a long time and wants to downsize and meets the income requirements, then they would get preference over.
They get first priority.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I can, we can only, what you're really giving me is a list of things to find out.
Yes.
All right. So it is the sense of the board or the committee that we would like to explore this idea further and see what we are and are not allowed to do and how how the people who are in these units are selected.
Mhm. Again, a specific description of here's what the proposal would be, both in terms of concept, legal context, and financials,
Sure.
as
Sure.
much as we can at least. And that, to me, it's much better to have a specific proposal that we can
Yeah.
both evaluate and communicate to the external world on this.
All right. If it's the board's will, it sounds like, to give me my marching orders to go dig into this to the next level.
Yeah.
Go out into the
I
jungle and
think you
find
could
out
say,
more.
yeah, we are intrigued.
And I guess another thing to add to the list, Al, I view as something more that would be within the control of the developer, is to what extent Ferris wanted to, keep the ZBA aware of it and potentially the planning board, because I mean those are ultimately the permitting, or the ZBA is the board that would grant the 40B permit. If that's relevant to their decision about whether or not to grant the permit, maybe it's something that can be a condition in the permit, etc. But this is all everything we're talking about needs to advance to a stage where it's actually something that works.
A real thing, as opposed to,
Yeah.
one of Al's crazy ideas.
Yeah.
A-
Yeah.
Another one of
Yeah.
those.
Come on, Sam.
In all
I think
seriousness,
this is
I
a-
don't think
this
this
is a
You
is,
good
don't have
idea.
a monopoly on that space, Sam.
I don't think
Darn,
this is a
I was
crazy
hoping.
idea. I don't think this is a crazy idea
It's
at all.
pretty interesting, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Al, actually,
Thank
months
you.
and months ago, when you thought about what is our kind of business model, one of the options was doing something like this. This is just a specific way of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that, so right now, we don't have a credible plan to build, something, people keep talking about a 30-unit thing, and we don't have a site, and I'm not aware that the town, I've looked, the town does not own a suitable site that you could reasonably expect town meeting to approve.
Mhm.
And so we'd have to go out and buy property, and to buy 3 to 4 acres of developable land in Southborough is a number north of $1 million. And we don't have $1 million. And that's
Mhm.
not even
Mhm.
counting, the subsidies we would probably have to provide
Mhm.
to a developer, and nor does it really provide for sewer services, which would be needed. So this is at least something that's, I think, within our financial capacity to do.
And Al, I think I see this as an example of what we've been trying to do, which is leverage trust fund dollars.
Right.
So you take a
Absolutely.
relatively small amount of trust fund dollars and let somebody else do the heavy lifting in terms of designing, building, operating, et cetera, and we basically piggyback on that sizable project effort to be able to create, some reasonable number of units that we could never afford to go out and build ourselves. So I think that's a great example of the leverage concept.
And it's a fixed liability. There's not,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're gonna spend
Yeah.
this and then we know what else we're getting into.
Yeah.
All right. I will move forward then. That's that's all that's on the agenda. So is there a motion to adjourn? Unless
Before
anybody
you
has
do
anything
that,
else?
Dorian was invited to this meeting, right? For sure.
I invited everybody on the Affordable Housing
Ready.
Trust Fund link.
All right.
So I move to adjourn.
There's a second?
Second,
All those in favor? Oh, it's gotta be roll call.
Roll call.
Stivers,
Stivers, aye.
Dennington, Cook,
Aye.
Hamilton, aye. All right. See you at 3 o'clock, Kathy.
I will. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.
See you later.
Bye.